Hey, welcome to the Jennifer O'Brien Show. I am your host, Jennifer O'Brien. I am super excited today. I have comedian Daren Streblow with me. Good morning, Daren. How you doing?
Well, it's morning, so I'm not sure. It's gonna be a few hours before I can get a bearing
I
on what's
know.
going on in my brain. But I got
And
this. I'm happy. I should be good.
you
So,
got I got my coffee too. Let's
what
cheers.
does your coffee mug say?
It says you're on mute. But you're not because that would be really hard. Just mime what your answer is now.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's a very good idea. That's a very good idea. Well, no, it's an honor to be on your show.
Wow, I'm excited. I finally got you to come on so how's it? You're up there up in Minnesota, huh?
I am, boy. As I look out here, so it's March 16th.
Yeah.
As I look out in the yard, it's over my waist in snow,
Wow.
and yeah, and it's not like all the thrown snow from I had to go in the backyard, and I was just like struggling through it. And we're expecting another 6 inches today. And yeah,
Whoa.
I question why we live up here. I don't know what you get in the summer. It's like, oh, this is kind of nice, and then three
Yeah.
weeks later, all the snow starts again, and you go, well, you
It's
know,
like 3-week summers. How
yeah,
lovely.
exactly. But yeah, I grew up here, so I guess I don't know anything better. But yeah,
Yeah.
as my kids are getting older, they're like, "Yeah, I'm never gonna live there, ever." They just want
Really?
they wanna get out. Yeah. My
So
oldest went to
maybe
Japan,
I
so
know.
the
You
lengths
got one in
people will
Japan.
go to escape Minnesota is amazing,
Yeah,
but,
it's not like he just moved down south. He's like, "No, I'm leaving the
no,
country.
I'm no,
I
it's
can't deal with this."
another
Yeah.
country. I'd try another planet, there just aren't resources to get there at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people love Minnesota. It's pretty if you like winter sports, you know
Hey,
but
listen.
that means you have to go outside. I
Yeah.
don't know about that. So I haven't gone outside since I was a kid, so I don't know what that means.
You just view it from your window.
That's right. That's I do my little radio show, look out the window, go, "Ooh, I'm not going out there."
Well,
So
oh, segue. Let's talk about the Daren Streblow show. Tell me
y
about your show.
now
Yeah.
I think we're about 11 years deep.
Mhm.
I was approached by a syndicator, 11 years ago, 12 years
Yeah.
ago, and looking for just a weekend program with, I think his original idea for the show was just a funny, like,
Yeah.
almost like what they do on XM radio, just bits,
Mhm.
and then I'd be
Mhm.
kind of the voice of it. But I said, most of the comedians that do like family shows all know each other,
Yeah.
and we have this kind of fun camaraderie and stuff like that. It'd be fun to bring
Mhm.
them on and talk to them and talk about what's going on with them. And they're really funny to talk to. And he said, "So we could do interviews." Like, yeah, that'd be fun. And
Yeah.
then play the bits too. So yeah, it's good. We've been in, I think we're in about 120 markets or something like that. I'm not sure now.
Yeah.
It goes up and down. But just a weekend show, and uh fun. I just enjoy it. As my manager says, it keeps me off the streets looking for food.
Keeps
So
you off those snowy streets
yeah.
of
But
Minnesota.
since I've started that, everyone's got shows now, like, case in point, so, if you wanna
You've
get a good
inspired
taste
us,
of
the
what this world is
pioneer.
like, you got a lot of options now, but, it's fun. I grew up doing radio, so it was kinda fun to keep going with that and get a microphone and, have a studio. It's
Well,
funny when I did
you got that voice for it too.
well, thank you.
You got the
I got
radio voice.
hired when I was 15 years old, I think,
Mhm.
16.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, they said I sounded like I was 40. So, I'm 52 now, so I sound like I'm 156, but, yeah, I still go on the weekends and go in and, the equipment there, I mean, the equipment I have is probably 1/20th of the cost, if
Oh,
that,
hey,
maybe less,
right.
and it sounds so much better. There's so much you can do with tech these days that
Mhm.
makes it fun. So, yeah, it's different.
That's
So
well, and it's true, right? Like, so 11 years ago, podcasting wasn't like a big thing. I mean, So you're kind of pioneering producing this show. Always have been able to produce it out of your house, right? I mean, were you
Yeah.
ever in a studio with this? No, this has always been something you've
Yeah,
right?
they built the little studio and you can, yeah, so it's just right there in the office, so if people come in and look at my terribly disheveled office, they'll say, "Oh, you have a microphone and a soundboard." Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get a radio show.
Yeah, I'm not trying to brag. And now you, like, walk into any, like, 14-year-old kid's bedroom, and you're like they
They
have,
have
like, an entire
more equipment
studio.
than I
Yeah.
do,
You're
sound
like,
better,
"Oh
and
my god."
have more of a following. That's the sad thing.
Yeah, because they did something crazy on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I met
that's
a guy on the road that was to do videos. He took I think it was some kind of a firecrack or like a firework thing that you
oh.
launch, and he shot himself with it
Oh,
and
lovely.
took a video of it. It put him in the hospital, but he got so many views. He said,
Oh
"This is
god.
my way forward." So
Oh.
he was designing ways to, you know, uh, hurt
He was mi
himself regularly to get a
Oh.
follow, and I was just, mm, unsustainable kinda went through my head,
Yeah, well,
so it's
he was maimed by a firecracker, and it launched,
like, I can turn
launched his
these scars
career.
into views,
Well,
and I thought, yeah,
can we
maybe
just
that's what
talk
we're all
about
doing
that?
really, uh,
I know, you kinda wonder, "What am I doing out here anyway?"
metaphorically is what we're doing, I guess.
Listen, in a sense, it's like I view TikTok. I hate to admit it. I finally got on there and am working it because it's an organic reach, but it's you see a lot of people on there that are just wanting that following. And yes, some people are you're just like, "Oh gosh." But they'll get the following. But, then again, don't get me started on China, the True app, what gets promoted in America versus China and how it's one of the things in our society that I think is really hurting people, the children. Now people could argue that because there is some good that comes from the app and I'm not saying that, but you do have a culture of people who are so desperate for validation and attention.
Yeah.
Not like us comedians. I mean, we don't need that. Thank you.
We're not desperate for it, we demand it. We go to a restaurant, we're the center of attention, we're always making
Yeah,
noise, we're always,
yeah. That's
I've
what
kind of given up on the whole I think you have a natural well, the logic of it is like, okay, well, I would really like to make a living doing this, so it'd be really great to be famous.
yeah,
Because then if you're famous, you can do ticketed shows and just make, your audience comes to see you and stuff. So you work really hard to get famous. I'm not even sure that that works anymore. I think I've kind of given up on that idea. Just kind of like, well, I've got people that most of the people I perform for don't actually have never heard of me, which is fine,
yeah, yeah.
and I kind of say, well, we wanted Tim Hawkins, we wanted Shonda Pierce,
I guess you'll
but you're
do.
affordable, so we'll give you a shot, and
Make
go
us
in there,
laugh.
you know, and I'll get done with that, and they'll go, "That was kind of funny. I can't
Yeah.
remember what his name was, but that was good." And then you leave and you go do the next one. That's kind of
Yeah,
my career, and
that's
I think
your
I'm okay with that. It's just fun to be in front of people, especially since COVID. It's like, oh, people, hi, you
Yeah.
know, just so happy
Yeah, can
to
I reach
see
out and
people.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So you've basically your entire career you've done churches, you've done, all sorts of places. So speak a little bit into being a Christian comedian because I think you're very funny.
thank you.
And listen, maybe God is just saying, I just want Darren to have a normal life. So I'm just not going to make him too famous because I want him to be able to go shovel snow without anybody coming up and asking for an
That's right.
autograph. You know,
He's got snow removal to do. He can't be doing comedy
can't handle
20
it.
24/7. Um, so what was the question? I forgot. I was
Well,
thinking about
just
shoveling
your
snow.
career as you're a Christian comedian, and what did you say? It was like
I just got I was thinking about shoveling snow and I got lost and all the
I
snow
get it.
that's outside.
I'm sure how
Yeah,
much of your life,
yeah.
Darren, has been spent shoveling snow? Let's just real quick, let's get
Yeah.
off topic for a moment.
I think I've, you know, uh, grew up in the church and so it seemed like the natural place to go when they needed comedy, and I started
Mhm,
doing church stuff, and then I got involved in comedy clubs, which was, Brad Stein kinda coaxed me to do that. He said, when you're with your friends or when you're with, audiences that are kind,
mhm,
you don't get the refining that you need to be as good as you probably can be. At least he said that was true for him. You know, there's obviously exceptions.
mhm.
But I took that. I thought, I wonder if I could even do that. And I went into an open mic the first night, and I did okay. You know,
Yeah.
I had been doing it for 3 years, just in other stages, and I thought, oh, this is going to work great. And then I got up the second night, and I did I think a fast food bit that I wrote when I used to work for Burger King,
Ooh.
from the perspective of working in the store and what people do.
Yeah.
And, the owner, as you know this, but that's kind of, they call it a hack premise
Mhm.
because it's just so overdone,
Yeah.
talking about the drive-through. So I got basically kicked off stage for about 6 months. And but I kept going to open mics
Yeah.
and just kind of watching and drinking in joke mechanics and how did you do this, and
Yeah.
you know,
You
things would
studied.
happen.
You were
Yeah,
studying
well,
them.
you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, if you want to ruin comedy, if you want to stop laughing at funny stuff, go into comedy because
Yeah.
you have to get into the making sausage aspect of it.
Mhm,
And it's Um, but I learned some, like, even just callbacks, you know,
mhm,
for the uninitiated, callbacks are kinda, when you've established a joke and then you bring that joke forward in later in the show,
mhm,
and
mhm.
we all, there's this history from it, and then we all laugh together. Like,
Right.
I watched a guy come in and he did a routine about, going to Goodwill or one of the thrift stores, and someone paid 50 cents for a pair of shoes, and it didn't have any laces in it, and they were complaining.
Mhm.
And he ranted for 10 minutes on how absurd that was, and just angry, you know,
Yeah.
just, and he was working it out, and he was all angry, so it was very funny.
Yeah.
Um, and then about 8 comedians later, I think it was Dwight York came in. I said,
Mhm,
"Man, I just got here, and I'm really upset. Paid
mhm.
50 cents for a pair of shoes, no laces."
Nice.
Well, it
Yeah.
was like a nuclear bomb went off in
He
there.
got him. He got him right there, and he had him the rest of the time, I'm sure.
Well, for me, which is I must do this, you know, so I started working at, you know, the power of the callback sort of started working for
Mhm.
me, and I thought that's very powerful, you know, to jumping into other people's stories or just bringing things back in and
Oh,
stuff like that,
yeah.
you know?
Being in the room is so important, and then it everybody gets to go in that journey with you, and I think it makes them feel like somehow they're in this with you. They're in that room, this is happening in real time, and I think it gives your audience a little it gives them a little something extra, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Just a little something extra they didn't expect.
The guys
So
that could do, improv and
mhm,
stand up were unstoppable, the guys and
mhm,
gals that did that. So did you
mhm.
start in improv or did you start in stand up?
I started in stand-up,
You started in stand up.
I did, and, it'd be funny because, um, I would get people, like, very early on after I'd get off the stage, they'd be like, "Do you do improv? You improv, right?" And I'm like, "No, I just do stand-up," because I there's a theatrical part to I'm just all over a little bit. But I always was concerned about improv because of the aspect of you work with a troupe, And I went to see live improv, which I loved, but you are now at the mercy of, when you call out the audience and you ask for, different, give me a topic or whatever, and they say something inappropriate. Now now you're in a scene. And I know there's been people that can work around that, but
Mhm.
I would never put myself as a woman, as a Christian woman doing comedy. I knew I couldn't put myself in that situation. So I never went for it. But my sister and I, we started an improv troupe several years back called Rubber Ducky Comedy. And we just kept it in the church. We kept it Christian. And then we had a great guy named Mitch Perlman, who's phenomenal. He's still one of the best improv comedians I know, because and he's clean. And I think why he's so great, he never, and this is the thing about improv. When you try to be funny in improv, you're not funny. I'm sorry. I mean, if you try too hard, it's just you ruin it.
Why
But
do you think that is?
people get in there. If you're in your head with improv, you're really not doing it right. You're not supposed to be, at least the way I've been trained, you can't be thinking about what you're going to say most of the time. It just has to flow. And Mitch, and now there's a part of improv, it's like a muscle. Like you're just gonna kind of already have some, like, like your callbacks. Like you kind of get trained to be ready to have some sort of response. Which I could train for the rest of my life to get better at that. There's some people they just naturally go for it. But Mitch would, it's like he did never tried to be funny, and yet somehow he was the funniest in my opinion, because he was so rested. He was so not trying to outshine, and that's the thing about improv. It should be, you're in a troupe. You're not trying to outshine the next person. Of course, and I have another friend who's also part of our improv troupe, and I used to say it was his show because he's so naturally quirky and funny.
Mm.
He just couldn't help but be who he is. But it was a perfect element to improv. But that was kind of who he is off stage and on stage. So it didn't really take away from improv, because this guy's a genius. He's quirky genius, and he's that way anyway. But
Mhm.
I could see, and I've seen amateur improv when people are trying too hard. It's like, uh, just don't try.
Yeah.
Just let
I
it
think it's
happen.
I
Yeah.
I would be invited on stage early in my stand-up to do improv with people.
Hmm.
And, the lesson is you take what they're doing and you add to it.
Yeah.
And as
Yes,
a
ma'am.
stand-up, I was taking what they were doing, tearing it down, and doing my own thing, which, it would derail everything.
Oh,
A
got it, got it.
and
Okay,
it I mean,
okay.
the audience thought it was funny,
Yeah.
but they were, like, going on the scene. I was like, "That's not happening," and then I would just, it was rude. Um, uh, then I was doing some camera work for somebody, uh, for something, and I realized I'm not good at acting at all, and I went back to one of my, friends who's a professor at university, Tom Isbell, who's been in a lot of movies and stuff, and he said, "Well, you need improv, so you're gonna be in my improv class."
Okay.
And, so I, went back to school, paid the tuition, everything,
Oh,
and I
really?
was
Oh,
there
wow.
with, acting majors, and people who are happy all the time. I'd
Yeah.
walk into class and they're all juggling.
On
Wonderful people.
unicycles?
I mean,
Mhm.
I just they were so much fun to be with.
Yeah.
Um, but then they jump into this improv stuff, and it was just I couldn't believe. So that I just kind of like when I was doing open mics, I just kind of took my cues from them. He did funny improv for the first half, but then he did serious improv,
Oh-ho.
which I thought, what is that going to be like?
Yeah.
And he said, no, we're going to, and there was this one scene that he gave it to the guy, and he
Mhm.
didn't tell me who I was. He just said, you just act as he gives you cues of who you are and stuff. And he said, I'm really looking forward to the wedding. And I'm like, oh, yeah, great. And he's like, yeah, there's just, it's so great. We're getting married and stuff. But my brother is just so important. And I really love, and he kept talking about it was how important his brother was. And I said, well, I'm still the best man, right? I just threw that out there.
Yeah.
tears, real tears started flowing down his face. And he starts to say how much I meant to him as a friend, but he had to pick somebody and stuff like that. Okay, so
Ah.
I'm in a state of shock, which is just
You're
just
like, "Where's the
watching
shovel? I
him.
need snow.
It has
Yeah, I gotta
nothing
get out of this."
the audience is reading that as my shock that I'm not the best man anymore, and literally there's 4 or 5 people in the audience crying, watching our
Whoa.
scene and stuff, and I was just watching around going, "What," or looking around going, what is what is happening here?" I couldn't believe it. And then afterward, I said, "What was that?" I said, "Well, you're catching on. This works." So after I was done with that class, he's an excellent teacher, and I was with
Yeah.
one. I was the stupidest
No.
student in the. I mean, I just was learning from scratch. But
Yeah,
when I
yeah, yeah.
left, my kids were like, "Oh, you're funnier now" at the dinner table because I would just kind of dive in, and I think
Ah.
you've probably run across this too. When people start joking with me,
Mhm,
I think the normal thing when somebody starts joking with you is just start laughing at what
mhm,
they're saying. But
mhm.
I would play with them. So it's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I was in Mars today." I was like, "Boy, it's been a long time since I've been there. What was that?" You know, and then they're like, I'm not being serious. I was joking." You know?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
was playing along, and stuff. And so I have to be kind of keep it. But I've always appreciated you folks who do improv. So you're always just I've never thrown a joke at you that you didn't play with. You just
You know
you're
what I
there.
always described improv class like, or improv in general, like stand-up comedy, and this is for me, it feels like more like work. You gotta work on your set, you gotta work on your like you're working on how you're gonna deliver it. Improv is like recess for comedians because you just get to play and just have fun and be silly and if it goes and by doing that, I just think it's fun.
Mhm.
Even if I'm not the funniest or it didn't come out or yeah, and sometimes scene will be called, I'm like, "Oh, that was stupid. I can't believe I said that part. That I did or I couldn't think of anything, and I just randomly said this, and it was funny." But it's just to me, it feels like recess that sometimes I just wanna go play games with my comedy friends, and the games that you play with comedy, like, there's a game called 5 Things. Like, my sister and I will play it sometimes, like, "All right, 5 things in the back of the trunk of dad's trunk back in the '80s when we were driving around." And we would just, you just randomly say funny things or like just little silly games like that. My sister, she really took improv and went with it. Like I enjoyed
She's
it and
very good too.
I have a
She's
good time.
Robin,
Yeah.
she's amazing.
She likes the puns. I mean, I'm not good with puns. Like,
I'm not
if it
either.
happens without me thinking, I'm, like, really good at it, but when I try to start thinking of puns, I'm like, "Ah," I just freeze, but she does the games with her kids, and her kids love it, and that was the thing about improv. I would notice you could take the audience you get the adults laughing, and you get the kids laughing. Everybody's laughing, but on different levels, so it's one of those comedy shows, because sometimes different, jokes comedians have will just go over the kids' heads, but
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
when there's improv, I think kids can kind of catch little things, and they
That's a
just
good
think it's so
point. Yeah.
silly,
Yeah.
especially if they call out, you tell them a location or whatever. Oh, anyway, well, I don't wanna get caught. We'll talk improv all day. We'll talk improv all day.
It's very interesting though, and it's interesting that people do, like, business seminars because it helps people to work together if they know how to
Mhm.
play together and, all those sort of things. It's very interesting.
I think deep down, aren't we all just kids,
We
like
are,
little
I think.
kids? And we just wanna play, have a good time, have fun. But how much learning is done through play? So I can see why corporations bring in the improv, it's like, let's let them play, but in playing, they're actually learning how to build team and learning how to build, um, so there's just some aspects of improv that I just think are a lot of fun,
Yeah,
you know?
it's amazing. It's amazing. Well, you do it
So
well.
it's yeah, it's exciting. So, I mean, we could talk all day, but so we got let's talk more about Daren Streblow here.
Oh, okay.
We've got an 11-year show. It's syndicated on the weekends. I also know you have an app. because I have it on my phone. You have the
Oh,
Daren
thank you.
Streblow app.
Oh, you're
So
my
so
I
talk
was
about your
wondering how,
app.
'cause I get little readouts who's using it, and they say, "1." Oh! So it's great. No, we've had the app now for 4 or 5 years, and I enjoy that. That's just place to post things and put the show. Yeah,
Yeah,
there it
there
is.
it
Yeah,
is.
you can
Mhm.
play the show whenever you want it, and yeah, it's kind of it's amazing to me
Yeah,
how easy doing that is now. Posting it and getting it up there, and when it lands and stuff, it's incredible. So, yeah, we've been doing that for quite a bit of time.
yeah.
It's still trying to figure out the best way to. It's almost like we were talking about getting famous and selling tickets. It's
Mhm,
like people don't really want that anymore anyway. I think what they want, and this is just my observations, and anyone can tell me different, but I think they want people they can hang out with a little bit.
mhm,
So
mhm,
they want you to be entertaining and stuff like that, but they want a place where they can connect
mhm.
with you and stuff like that. And so I think this kind of stuff is kind of the future. Where you got these groups that just is like, Jen's our comedian, and we get together with her every once in a while,
Mhm.
and she posts stuff, and I don't know if it's like going from a world stage to just more pockets of
Yeah,
people, and I think I like that. I think I like the community of that, and stuff. I like that. So
yeah. But you're right. People are where it's a lot of noise out there right now, right? We're connected almost more than ever, but I do think people still long for community. They long to feel connected. And, if apps can do that, bringing people closer. And I love this app. I mean, it's nice to just it's clean comedy. I mean, your show, we didn't talk a ton about your show, but you feature a lot of clean comedians. It's all clean comedy. So once again, it goes back to like kids can listen, adults can listen. You're going to get clean content, and it's sometimes you just need to laugh, and boy,
yeah,
do we need to laugh these days. I just feel like there's just so much noise out there. Sometimes you just need to kind of forget about everything and just kinda laugh at the crazy
yeah.
thing.
During COVID, we'd try to laugh about what was going on, just
Yeah.
some of the absurdity of it
Mhm.
in a time where people were just terrified. So we had
Crazy.
to really be ginger about how we did that, and sometimes it was not received well
Yeah.
because we're just trying to make jokes about you know just to get a 50,000-foot view on what's happening,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that you can have perspective and just feel better.
Yeah.
And there's some people who say, we don't want that, we don't want that, and
It's
it
an
didn't get
interest.
didn't get a lot of pushback, but it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a medicinal aspect to comedy that needed to be there, and we would just people were like not ready to do that. This had to be serious. I mean, and it
Yeah.
was, but
Well,
it,
that's what comedians do. We let this cat out of the bag, the steam out of the pot, It's like we're here to kinda let some of that off, but, yeah,
well, you
some
see
people are
all these,
like,
like, you go back in history and you see a lot of the wartime comedy, and it's
"Mm."
all making fun of war, which
Yeah.
seems kind of inappropriate, but I think people needed a release from the
Yeah.
tension and stuff like that. And that's how I was kind of even growing up when like I remember when the shuttle disasters and
Challenger.
things would
Mhm.
happen that were just national news at the time. And very quickly, within like a day,
Mhm.
kids had all these jokes about it,
Yeah.
really inappropriate jokes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was just like, "What is that?" And I think it's a coping mechanism.
It is.
Just
Absolutely. It's such a
just
gift.
just to kinda get over the trauma,
Yeah.
and maybe that's too strong of a word, but how do you take something that's that hard to understand as a kid and put it in a get it in your psyche in a way that you can actually work with it.
Yeah.
I think that's why those jokes come out. And I've since talked to a lot of people who do like emergency work and
Okay.
go in and, where they're on the front lines of saving people, and they're working with horrible situations,
Mhm.
and they are very much into making fun of
Yeah.
scenarios they're in, to the point I think they say if anybody hurt us, they would be so
Oh.
upset,
Oh,
but
yes.
that's the way they cope with it. That's how they do it. That's
Yeah.
Otherwise they're gonna have to quit,
Right. Yeah.
and so comedy is a coping mechanism, definitely.
So speak a little more, and I know you've gotta go shovel snow because you gotta get somewhere, and, I'm I just gotta
That's
make
right.
sure.
That's right.
Um, but just real quick, I know we gotta wrap it up because I know we're under some time, restrictions this morning, but, can you speak a little bit into this I do feel like we're up against a culture right now that has this spirit of offense that kind of wants to stay bound. And have you noticed any pushback, with a lot of stuff that's happened in the last several years? Do you feel like comedy is not? Do you feel like it's kind of having to be filtered out more and like, oh, we don't want to offend this, and we don't, do you find yourself having to um pull back any, or do you find that, "Hey, I'm going for it and it's not affected me one single bit?"
Well,
Um
I think I've always admired people that can dive into topics, and it's like, "This is what I talk about. I don't care
Mhm.
how it shakes
Yeah.
down." I've always been kind of, I don't know what the word is. I've been reticent to do that because, um, I would really like there to be some kind of, peace, and I want people to feel really good when they leave my shows.
Yeah.
And when I go to see a comedian that is even someone I agree with politically, and it's
Mhm.
all politics,
Mhm.
and, even if I agree with them 100%, I'm still being shocked back into the world that maybe I need a, I just took a few minutes to make a case that this is how we cope with life. But there's
Mhm.
also a kind of a separate, let's just kind of step out of all
Yeah.
this stress for a little bit kind of a thing. I
Mhm.
I, I like I like that kind of thing. So the stuff that I've always tried to gravitate toward was more, this is the kind of thing that you encounter in everyday life
Yeah.
that is funny.
Yeah.
Like, Minnesota's still figuring out roundabouts. So trying to figure that out, and, just having a take on something that mundane, make
Yeah.
it funny. I
Yeah.
think that's more delightful for me than taking pot shots at political enemies, I guess.
Right.
Um, which, and I'm not even saying there's not a place for that. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying, for me,
That's
I've
not your
always been,
brand. Mhm.
no, I just
Mhm.
I don't do that with other, when I get together with other people. I'm not just like, well, you're thinking correctly about this, right? You know, I try not to
Mhm.
do that. I want to have kind of a more of a, I don't know, just entertainment. So I've
Yeah.
steered clear of that kind of stuff.
Certain topics,
Like,
certain sure, and
and if I
you
talk about it, I want to talk about, if I want to talk about something that is going to change you. I don't think my politics are going to do that anyway, because you can, for me, the thing that I've been trying to learn, and it's taken me, I'm 52.
Mhm.
I don't know if I had a handle on this till even 5 years ago. It's just,
Mhm.
politics aren't going to save you. Um, you're following your heart isn't going to save you.
Mm.
Um, Friendships are great. They're not going to save you. Your family's not. You really, my relationship with God
Mhm.
is the only thing, in Jesus is the only thing that actually brings real change and real hope in my life. And I've, for many years, even though I went to church, I kind of ran from that.
Mhm.
I didn't even think I was running from it. I thought I didn't think I was, but to the extent that I was following my own thing,
Mhm.
my own ideas, and uh, that was running away from God, and I just find that that's really what makes a difference. So if I want to talk
Mhm.
about that, that's what I like to talk about in
Well, you get down to
shows.
the nitty-gritty. Like, you're just like, "We can just" because really, isn't that the heart of, what we're here? I mean, and I wish this was your sweatshirt. I have a sweatshirt on that says "Jesus saves." Like, I wish this was your merch right now
That's a
because
great phrase. I wish I would have invented that. That would have.
because then I could say, "Now go to DarenStreblow.com and get your Jesus Saves sweatshirt that I am now
Yeah.
wearing." But no, it just summed up everything you just said in a sense, and, but that's part of your story, and it's almost to me, you just got down to, like, the true I believe we're in a true battle of good and evil, light and dark, and we could paint it up this, and it's this person, and that's the enemy. No, that's the enemy, and you could spend all day long trying to figure out who the enemy is. But you and I know, no, it's the true enemy is Satan, and this is a battle of good and evil. And
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
and
I don't know where to
and
go
and
after that.
I can try to yell at people to vote the way I vote or
Yeah,
think the way I do or something like that. And in the end, it won't help at all. It
yeah,
won't really
exactly.
help at all.
Mhm.
Um, so so that's what I've been trying to when there are opportunities, and you can't really, in when you do club work, you're an entertainer. I could get up and talk about Jesus once for about a half hour, and then they'd say, "Yeah, you're done,"
Yeah, bye.
and
Yeah,
and maybe that would be appropriate someday, but it's in those settings, you're just being funny, and
yeah,
you do your dry bar shows, and you're just funny and stuff, and that's really the reason someone would bring us in is to be funny because the
yeah.
people need that. But if there's going to be some kind of anything meaningful, I think it has to be about Christ because
Amen.
there's just
I agree.
there's nothing else for me
Yeah.
anyway, and it's not something I've been particularly good at my whole life. So
Hey,
it's
listen, I'm right there with you. God is just like, "Oh, you really wanna do this? Okay, here it is." You're like, "Oh, there's more, but there's
yeah,
more."
yeah.
So I feel you on that, but, oh, it's so good. Like, I know you gotta go shovel that snow and get to your appointment. But, so those that wanna find you, they can go to your website, DarenStreblow.com. That's Daren with 1 R,
Mhm.
Daren, and then Streblow,
I can't do the camera right. I was going to point at it. So.
Streblow.com. So, and there, you can, or if you go to the App Store on your phone, Daren Streblow, and you can download the app and listen to comedians all over the world that are funny, that are clean, and it's a family-friendly show. And, yeah, and then your website would have where Daren's gonna be next
Yeah.
and your schedule and, anything, coming that you wanting to talk about or anything else that I didn't share
Well,
or
just
promote?
honored to be on your show. I
Oh,
appreciate that. I appreciate you as a performer, and you have a real heart for people, and so and I just think you're doing great, and uh, keep 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 doing what you're doing. Remember us little people when you come into
oh
your
gosh,
kingdom,
yeah,
and
right. Yeah, well, listen, we'll have to have you on again, and, always good to chat with you, Daren,
you
and,
too.
please, go check out Daren Streblow, and, you'll see why I'm a huge fan,
Oh,
and,
thank you.
yeah, so we'll do this again, so thanks for coming on,
You
and,
bet. Thank
do
you.
this all right, take
Good to
care.
see you. Yep.
Bye.